Well, the big story in America, those conversations about debt that have been going on, big debt showdown, and Barack Obama trying to heal those wounds now. Let's head off to Sussex, USA, and to Don Carpenter from WGMD radio station, find out what his listeners have been making of all this. Hi, Don.
Good afternoon, Sarah. Thank you for having me. It's such an honor.
Well, it's a pleasure to talk to you this afternoon. Now, tell us, I would imagine that the debt has really been the big topic of conversation amongst your listeners.
Oh, absolutely. Even after the deal was reached yesterday, it's still the number one story. It's still, they're still going over points that need to be discussed. They're going back and forth about tax increases and exactly how much is going to be cut and their commissions. I mean, you know how things go over here in the colonies. It's always a constant back and forth, and of course, our listeners tend to be more conservative, so they're really not, they're not in favor of this. They really they don't like the deal. Personally, I tend to be a little bit more cynical, so I kind of understand the process of the back and forth and how it actually helps us. But I think that's the big story right now. I mean, I don't know how much you've been covering it over there. I'm sure.
Do you know, it's one of those things. I went and nipped around for a cup of tea with my mum and stepdad the other day, and he was talking about it, and he was expressing his surprise, saying, you think of America as a wealthy nation, you don't expect these kind of negotiations and these deals to be going on.
Well, they do. They have been going on for even back in the 70s and 80s. We had these kind of discussions. I think the 24-hour news cycle that we have here, and you guys have over there, I think that kind of brings it more to the forefront. And I think more people are actually getting involved. I mean, I consider myself fairly well versed in politics, and 5 years ago I couldn't have told you what the debt ceiling was. So in the end, maybe all of this could end up being a good thing. Maybe people will learn more about the process and become more involved. It's
astonishing figures that are talked about here as well, isn't it?
Oh, it's I actually have the figures here. It's 2.1 trillion in cuts. Trillion. That's just an astonishing amount of money.
And you sort of think, well, if I, as an individual, managed my finances in this manner, then people would be aghast. So I think that's what people are surprised at, this kind of level of debt that's been going on.
Yeah, it really, it's something that has to be gotten under control. I think we've gotten to the point where everybody finally agrees on it has to be gotten under control. It's just a question of how we're going to do it, and that's the process we're going through now.
Well, Don, obviously debt has dominated. Anything else that your listeners have been getting heated about?
Well, the other interesting story I saw on the news today actually came from your side of the pond, and it turns out that drinking is the most popular way to relax. It's a survey from a UK charity called DrinkAware that indicates that 61% of adults prefer to relax with a drink after a stressful day, which, with all this debt talk, it can be pretty stressful. And, only 28% prefer to spend time with their children. So I think, that could be a sign of the times that maybe we are getting a little bit more stressed and, maybe looking for a way to escape.
It could be a vicious circle, couldn't it? So debt driving us to drink, and then drink getting us into debt. Who knows? I have to say, I watched a BBC documentary about some of the drinking problems that we have in this country, and many people under the age of 30 facing issues with liver damage, long-term health problems because of what we call binge drinking. Now, do you have that problem in America at all?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's almost sort of a rite of passage when when you go off to college when you're younger. I actually went to college when I was a little bit older, but yeah, I mean, it's sort of a rite of passage. You go off to college, university, you go away from your parents, drink. That's the popular thing to do, and so I mean, I don't think it's just a UK problem. I think it's probably worldwide with the binge drinking.
Although sadly it's no longer a rite of passage. It seems to be a passage that some people don't emerge from, because some people continue to drink way into their 20s, 30s, 40s and beyond, and that's where the health issues suddenly arise, I suppose.
Oh yeah, and it's absolutely a problem, and it's maybe something that we should probably take a look at and see if we can't can't maybe get a handle on it and try to educate some people about it. So, yeah, I thought that little story might be a little indicator of maybe things to come. And yeah, who knows? Maybe.
Well, definitely, and actually it does tie in with something in our local paper here. This is the Argus, the Brighton Argus, and it's talking about the number of women who are dying as a result of alcohol addiction. So you sort of highlight the fact that it is, as you say, an issue across the whole globe, really.
Oh, yeah. It's funny that you bring up women, because the study that I had actually shows that the number of women that drink compared to stress is much higher, 73%. Compared to 26% of men, so it's definitely a problem. You know.
Do you know what, Don? When I go home after the show, I shall think twice before I sit down with a large glass of wine.
I think one would do just fine. It's good for you. It's good for you.
Well, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you, Sarah. It's been an honor.
Yeah, let's hope that we talk again in the future. Don Carpenter, who, of course, Jared normally chats to us on the show, but Jared's off. He's had a couple of weeks off, so Don was filling in for him today. Always good to hear what's being discussed in America.